Woo! First actual Forsaken video. This is gonna be so cringy. Oh my god. But anyways, recently on stream I finally gotten milestone for Noli, meaning I've maxed out every single killer inside of the game. So I have a feeling that I am actually worthy of ranking all of these killers. Now, the devs of Forsaken definitely did an amazing job when it comes to balancing killers. All of them are, I mean, at least viable, but there are some that's going to be slightly weaker than other killers, which I just have a strong opinion on, and that's why I am making this video. And I also did maxed out Noli before I made this video, so I could say myself, I know how to play every single killer in the game. So without further ado, one more thing before we get into the video. Because this is kind of my first Forsaken video besides shorts, and it's gonna get pretty lengthy, I did put a lot of timestamps in the description to help you guys to find the section that you guys want, just in case you guys hate my voice and just want to see my ranking. Still though, I would really appreciate it if you watch the video. So without further ado, let's start the video. The worst killer to the best killer. Here we go. First up on the list, the worst killer in the game by far, by a landslide, John Doe, without a doubt. The main reason why you'd like to use John Doe is because of Unstoppable, which recently got nerfed. Originally, it at least had a spot on the list, but no, after Unstoppable got nerfed, John Doe is basically unusable. Natural Malevolence is a very mid ability. As a passive ability, it gives off a little extra damage to Sentinels, doesn't really do that much of things. Unstoppable is the reason why you want to use John Doe, but ever since it got nerfed, it's extremely hard to activate. That's why John Doe lost its only toy to play with. John Doe's M1 is a slashing move that has a windup of 0.4 seconds, dealing 28 damage. With this amount of M1 damage, John Doe is able to 3-shot Iliot and 2-time without healing, obviously. And of course, 4-shot normal survivors that are not called guests. It's a very strong M1 move with the most damage in the game, but the windup is very holding it back. It's extremely hard to hit John Doe's M1 because of that 0.4 second windup. Gives good amount of time for people like Guest to react, block, and parry you back. Really easy to do these kind of things. John Doe's next ability, Corrupt Energy, is basically his only toy to play with now that Unstoppable is gone. It's a great way to be trapping survivors into areas that you want them to be trapped, even though it's very inconsistent, because it's very easy for gaps to appear between the spikes. Most of the time, however, you'll want to be aiming those corrupt energy onto survivors and hoping to get as much damage as possible, as these spikes could do a lot of damage to survivors if you can hit them. Next, we got the digital footprints. John Doe just sets a trap on the ground. It's really weird. Because on some maps, this move is absolutely golden. For example, Tempest. For example, Cool Carnival. These are maps that John Doe really shines in with these digital footprints. But if you got something like, for example, Yorick's Resting Place or something like Horror Hotel, this move is borderline useless. I know you can trap the bridge or whatever, but most of the time it's just not gonna be worth it. It could stall for like a little time, target down one survivor, but it doesn't do too much, especially since digital footprint is going to be gone after a survivor steps on it. You can't really get a lot of value out of this move, even if survivors are stepping into the move. And John Doe's detection move, being 404 error, is just a very classic detection move. You just slows down for a bit, revealing every survivor is on the map. It's pretty good, but it can't really save John Doe. Overall, John Doe is a very confusing killer with a good mechanic, but unfortunately that mechanic doesn't work in this game. Maybe in Fleet of Facility, maybe in Daybreak, but not in Forsaken, man. And this really drags down John Doe's performance. It's not going to be good in most of the matches, especially if you cannot counter Sentinels, man. People use John Doe to counter Sentinels. Please, just give John Doe his Unstoppable back, please. John Doe's beyond unusable right now. Next, we got Cool Kid, number 4, the fourth best killer, or in other words, the second worst killer. I feel like this is going to be a very controversial pick because I feel like Cool Kid is a lot of people's favorite killer to use because of the sheer amount of damage it provides. Now, I'm going to be talking about why Cool Kid is bad in my opinion. The biggest reasoning is the lack of detection. Cool Kid got one of the best M1s in the game for sure, with a 0.1 second windup dealing 26.5 damage, allowing you to 4-shot survivors. Now, the strength of Cool Kid, why it is so many people's favorite killer, is because of the amount of damage it dealt, like I said just now. Having such high damage paired with its second highest speed, making very pleasable for a lot of players. Cool Kid has one of the best M1s in the game. 0.1 second to wind up to attack is very, very good. Dealing 26.5 damage is also really, really, really good. This hitbox is slightly shorter than all the other killers, but it doesn't affect the fact that it does so much damage so quickly because your running speed makes up for it. Corrupt Nature is often compared to Noli's Nova. I personally think that Corrupt Nature is better than Nova from Noli. It is super quick to throw out. It's super easy to hit. If you play Cool Kid for just a little bit of time, you'll be able to hit Corrupt Nature most of the time. Providing slowness 1 for 4 seconds is again really, really good. It's just a really good damage dealer when you're in chase. Speaking of damage dealer, of course we gotta talk about Walk Speed Override, Cool Kid's strongest move in its arsenal, dealing the most amount of damage, a total of 45 damage. This is actually really, really insane. It is not enough to pair it with M1 to do like a 2-tap after using Walk Speed Override, unfortunately, but it is still really, really strong because of the sheer amount of damage it does. This Walk Speed Override move is often compared to Noli's Void Rush. I personally think that Void Rush is better because it obviously able to change direction, travel distance being so much longer, so much easier to hit opponents. I do think that Noli Void Rush is a lot better. Last but not least, we got Pizza Delivery. Spawning 2 minions going towards the survivor that is closest to Cool Kid, and dealing damage. Dealing 15 damage, providing slowness 2, burning 1 for 3 seconds. If did right, this move can do up to 40 damage, but it is just not reliable at all. Especially considering that other killers' are often detection move. Cool Kid's Pizza Delivery just isn't strong enough to detect. It doesn't do any detection, it just sends minions to find the closest survivor. This is not good enough. These pizza deliveries are slow and clumsy. They often just bugs and does not move in a lot of situations, and it is not a reliable detection source, especially in Last Man Standing. Yes, in some situation it could pressure survivors to run into the pizza delivery man, giving them slowness for 3 seconds, letting Cool Kid to catch up to them, but most of the time, these minions are easily avoidable and cannot do anything. This is why, despite Cool Kid have so much offensive capability in the early and mid game, with moves like Corrupt Nature, Walk Speed Override, and just his pure M1 and supported by his sprinting speed, this killer is not good. The lack of detection really hurts Cool Kid. Because it doesn't matter if you kill all the survivors in the early and mid game, if you cannot kill the last survivor in Last Man Standing. And Cool Kid's Pizza Delivery just does not allow Cool Kid to find the last survivor effectively. That's why a lot of times when you're using Cool Kid, you're doing a lot of damage in the early game, yes. You're getting to Last Man Standing very quickly, yes. But you are not able to find that last survivor, especially if the last survivor is a survivalist. Even with the undetectability nerf, Pizza Delivery are not a reliable source to find survivors. And that's why I think Cool Kid really lacks, because it could not clean up the game. Could do huge damage in the early and mid game, completely unviable in the last minute of the match, often causing a loss for the Cool Kid player. As for the health disadvantage, I don't personally think it's that big of a disadvantage because 800 health is still enough unless you're in a really dedicated killer killing server. Otherwise, 800 health should be enough for you. The real weakness of Cool Kit really is that lack of detection. You cannot do anything if you can't find the survivor, man. Now we got Noli, the new killer, the infamous killing machine. In my opinion, Noli is the third best killer in the game, often compared to Cool Kid, but it definitely is a better version of Cool Kid. When I first played the killer, I thought it was a very slow killer, often teleporting around the map, getting some damage here and there, but not really picking up any kills. But now I realize how powerful Noli is, actually. I think it's the third best killer, like I said just now, and there are good reasons for it. Starting with Noli's passive ability, which is so confusing to talk about. I'm not going to explain it here. Hallucination is an alright ability. It doesn't help in most situations, but it wouldn't hurt having it. Prankster, however, spawning in fake generators is actually pretty decent. You are able to slow down survivors' generator pace, which is really good. After all, Noli, like I said, could play a little bit slower than a lot of other killers. For example, Cool Kid or Jason. Against more experienced player though, both of these passive will remain useless, but wouldn't hurt having them against new players. Now, its stab ability, M1, it's an alright move. Again, having the same problem as John Doe, 0.4 second wind up is just so much time to react. 25 damage, basically the same as John Doe. Doesn't really make a difference, it's still 4-tap survivor. Now we got Void Rush, often compared to Walk Speed Override, like I just said. And I still stand by my case. I think Void Rush is a way better version of Walk Speed Override. And there are obviously a lot of good reasons for it. Void Rush, changing directions is one of them. And it's also really easy to get that 40 or 50 damage down. You normally won't want to be using Void Rush to be bouncing around survivors, even though you could do a lot of chip damage, a lot of tens damage. But in reality, you're not going to be hitting those Void Rush. You want to be targeting down a survivor, getting that slam on him, doing maybe a total of 50 damage. It's a lot of damage. Also, it's very easy to pair Void Rush with Observation to get a steady 40 damage, because you're going to be applying Hallucination 2 on any survivors you want. Overall, Void Rush is going to be your main DPS beside your M1, and it's super easy to hit it, meaning you have a consistent way of doing damage, unlike Walk Speed Override. The only problem with Void Rush and this M1 is probably guest, but let's be honest, guest counters both Noli and John Doe, so. Next we got Nova. It's like Corrupt Nature, but it has Splash and has a 0.78 second wind up and also pulls survivors towards the blast. I do think this is a weaker version of Corrupt Nature, however it's very fitting for Noli to have this move, as it can pull survivor closer, pair it with an M1. You can pick up free hit KOs on survivors like 2-time, Elia, Builderman, Dusakar, stuff like that. So Nova is actually better on Noli than Corrupt Nature is on Noli. That being said, Nova is an extremely unreliable move, and having to pull survivors to the middle feels a lot harder to hit a lot of times. So you definitely need some experience with Nova. Now, Noli's last move, Observant, probably the strongest move in the game. First of all, you're able to teleport to basically anywhere on the entire map as long as there's a generator there, which is everywhere. You're able to detect any survivors nearby. I'm pretty sure you can also detect undetectable survivors, which is awesome. Overall, the reason why Noli is better than both Cool Kid and John Doe is because the axis of mobility is so strong. Being able to get back into chase is super quick, and yeah, the only weakness is probably guessed. As for the second best killer in the game, we've got Jason/Slasher. It's getting a rework soon, but right now it's still Jason. I'm still gonna call him Jason. Jason is the default killer you get from when you start the game, and it is, I believe, the second best killer in the game. Which is really strange. You would think that as a default killer, it's supposed to be one of the easiest killers to use, which it absolutely is, but you wouldn't expect it to be one of the best. Now let's start with its M1. Unfortunately, one of the worst M1 in the whole game. Only doing 20 damage, inflicting bleeding 1, does a total of 28 damage, but it cannot effectively four-shot any survivors, unfortunately. Now you might think that 28 times 3 equals 84. Another M1 should be able to take out a survivor. Meaning that Jason is able to four-shot survivor with M1, but in reality that barely happens because of how good Slasher actually is. I know I'm calling him Slasher on accident. I'll try to call him Jason, whatever. But the reason why I say that normally it takes 5 shots for Jason to kill you with Slash is because of his speed. Jason is the fastest killer in the entire game, making it constantly be up your face, stabbing you, doing a lot of damage to you. And once you've been targeted by Jason, there's basically no getting away unless you have the Sentinel to help you out, or if you yourself is a Sentinel. Jason's definitely the most target-oriented killer before Guess 666 came out, so that's something. Its M1 is probably the worst out of all of the killers, but its ability is really, really solid. I mean, probably some of the best abilities in the entire game. Starting with Behead, even though it doesn't inflict bleeding like M1 does, meaning it does less damage than M1 overall, it inflicts better status, which is Helpless 1 for 8 seconds. 8 seconds is really long. You use it on any Sentinels, any Survivalists, any supporters. Their ability will be disabled for a while. Meaning you don't need to be fearing something like Clone, you don't need to be fearing something like Block when you're chasing a survivor. Really, really solid move. Even though you get Slowness 1 for 2 seconds after swinging, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. And not to mention that Behead has an insane lunge. It's really, really easy to hit this move. Gashing Wound is an interesting move. It does 50 damage. If you have Enraged on it does 70. It's insane. But it is really, really, really difficult to hit Gashing Wound for some players. What I like to do personally is keep chasing survivors until they ran out of stamina, then use Gashing Wound, or when they're doing a generator. Those are perfect time to be using Gashing Wound. It's also the move with the highest possibility of glitching others out of the map, meaning kicking them from the server. So that's a little niche tip if you want, I guess. Not to mention that Jason's passive ability allows him to get off Gashing Wound way easier. Last but not least, we got Raging Pace and Raging Jason to be in a very interesting stance. I see a lot of people using the stance wrong. A lot of people use this stance to try to get more damage on Gashing Wound, but that's not actually how you should use it. There's 3 main ways you want to be using Raging Pace. Number 1, you want to be using it with your M1 to get a good lunge onto survivors. The second way is that you want to use Raging Pace right before you think the Sentinel is going to stun you. This way you get stun immunity and probably dogpile on the survivor. And of course, the third way of using Raging Pace is to extend your loop. After all, you get a good amount of speed when you're enraged and your stamina does charge up. Right when you get to around 90 or 100 stamina, you'll want to be using that M1 to finish the dash so you can continue the chase. This is the best way to extend the chase with Jason. That's why I think that Jason is such an up-your-face killer. It can always catch up to you. And a huge reason is because of this Raging Pace and its high speed. Overall, Jason is a really strong, powerful melee killer that's constantly up your face and doing a lot of damage to you. Now, I know a lot of people talked about Jason not having any projectiles, but let's be honest, Jason doesn't need them if he's always in the melee range of yours. And that's why Jason is so strong and high up on the list. Last but not least, we got 1x1x1x1. The best killer in Forsaken, in my opinion, right here, without a doubt. 1x got everything. It got close range, it got long range, it got minions, it got detection. 1x is the perfect killer. I don't know what to say. Now, I am a 1x1 main myself, so I have a feeling this is going to be a little biased. And the gameplay you're seeing right now is actually a game that I think I did pretty bad on. So, because I missed every single entanglement. So, yeah. I promise 1x is a lot better than I am showing it as right now because I played horribly in the match. Now, 1x1's M1 ability, another slashing move, is in my opinion the best M1 besides Cool Kid. It is so strong. Not just the pure damage though. The reason why 1x1's M1 is so powerful is because of its glitched effect. Obviously covering your screen, but most people have Eclipse mode on, so those don't really affect. But what glitched effect has, however, is building up damage. The more glitched effects a survivor has, the more damage you're gonna deal to them. Meaning if you keep on M1ing survivors, the survivors can die in like 3 hits. If you pair it with the poison damage, it's insane. It's very possible for 1x1 to free hit KO survivors normally, especially if you pair it with entanglement. Even if you're only able to hit 2 slashes and is unable to chain a third one, it still does so much damage because of poison 2. Basically, 1x1's M1 is insane. So insane. It's probably the second best M1 in the game, like I said. Next, we got Mass Infection, also known as free damage. A lot of new players are unable to hit people with Mass Infection, but in my opinion, it's very easy. Once you get just some training, it's super easy to hit them. There's a lot of things that I don't know how to explain with 1x1, so it's going to be quite brief, because I'm bad at this. But 1x1 is just really good. It does a lot of damage, both close range and short range. Entanglement is another insane move. Only a windup of 0.75 seconds. You immediately stun survivor if you can hit them with this super fast projectiles. It's so easy to hit survivors with entanglement, even though I keep missing in this clip. Plus, you get speed too right after you hit them. You get to your opponents really, really fast. As for Unstable Eye, it's a classic detection move, but you still get speed 1 for 5 seconds. Blindness 3 doesn't really matter, but speed 1 really, really does. It's very often to be used in chase just to catch up to survivors with that speed 1 for 5 seconds. Rejuvenate the Rotten did got nerfed recently, but it's still really strong in pressuring survivors and stuff like that. You do want to use it in Last Man Standing now that it does not give you up to speed 3, so. And that's all of the killers in Forsaken Ranked. Let me make a quick conclusion here because in case you just skipped the video. John Doe is the worst killer in the game. It has a strong M1 and a classic detection, but it's so slow and its playstyle just does not fit in this game. It's not good enough compared to other killers because it's so slow. Number 4, we got Cool Kid. It's a very fast and offensive killer that does huge DPS. The problem with Cool Kid is detection, lack of detection. You can kill survivors really quick, but you just cannot find the last survivor. That's why Cool Kid's number 4. Number 3, we got Noli, a very, very decent killer. Could do a lot of damage in a short period of time, but the M1 is still lacking, man. M1 with the 0.4 seconds windup is just not good enough. Number 2, we got Jason, a killer that's always up your face, constantly exerting pressure on you, constantly doing damage, does not fall behind in chase. That's why Jason's number 2, super strong. Number 1, the best killer in the entire game, 1x1, obviously having basically everything you would need. Melee pressure, range pressure, stun, minions, detection, speed. I feel like 1x1 has everything, and therefore I feel like 1x1 is the best killer in the game. Now, keep in mind that even though all of these rankings are made by a professional, since I feel like maxing out all the killers could be considered professional, this is still just my personal opinion. So, if you have any opinion that you think, oh, what killer should be up there, what killer should be down there, you can always make a comment. I read all of them, and I reply to all of them, I promise. Oh, and as you can see, I just finished maxing out in 7, so meaning I only have chance to max out until I have all the characters maxed out.